Everyone has seen that iconic photo, the legendary Lionel Messi giving a bath to a baby who would one day grow up to be his successor. That picture would make you believe in destiny, but what happened next is even more extraordinary. This is the story of football's next great, the story of Lamine Yamal. Spain's national team manager Luis de la Fuente says, "In life, everything happens for a reason." In the case of Lamine Yamal, it certainly feels that way. But while he is shot onto the scene and into the spotlight as if he were always meant to be there, his route to the top hasn't been easy. And if you know the meaning behind his 304 celebration, it's clear that he hasn't forgotten that there's been hardships, poverty, divorce, injuries, racism, stabbings, and controversy, and a whole heap of other difficulties along the way. His journey starts in 1990 when his grandmother, a young woman called Fatima, arrived in Spain from Tangier in Morocco in search of a better life. She struggled and worked hard and eventually brought her 7 children, including Yamal's father, Munir Nasroui, across the Mediterranean to live with her in Barcelona and raise them there despite huge financial difficulties. Like many Moroccans, she settled in Rocafonda, an immigrant suburb on the outskirts of Barcelona, full of high-rise apartment blocks where nearly half of its population lived below the poverty line. Yamal's mother, Sheila Ibana, was from Equatorial Guinea and immigrated to Spain as a child and was just 16 when Yamal was born on the 13th of July 2007, so his parents chose a name to reflect his roots, Lamine from his mother and Central Africa, and Yamal from his father and Morocco. But these names were also chosen to honor 2 friends who had given Yamal's family vital support that kept their heads above water. When Lamine Yamal was just 4 months old, he was the one in the water, as that famous bath time photograph was taken after his mom entered him in a draw to take part in the photo shoot for UNICEF, and he was chosen to be washed by a young Lionel Messi in a bathtub. But nobody then knew that Lamine Yamal would grow up to be Messi's successor, the next great Barcelona legend in the number 10 shirt, and would play against his hero on the world's biggest stage. But Yamal's parents had a rocky relationship and divorced when he was just 2 years old, and this divorce could have destroyed Yamal if not for his grandmother Fatima, who helped raise him when his parents were not around and made sure he had a proper daily routine, as his parents sacrificed everything to help him survive in Spain's poorest neighborhood, where his dad would do any job possible, even picking up things in the streets to try and provide food for the family. But Yamal was too poor to afford the fees to play on proper pitches, so he learned his skills on a concrete futsal and basketball court graffitied with the last 3 digits of Rocafonda's area code 304, a number that Yamal would turn into his symbol as he looked to honor his roots. And at that time, his mom was working at a fast food restaurant where she met a local footballer called Inocente Diaz, who straight away saw Yamal's potential and told his mom to sign him up for his local youth team La Torreta, as he said Yamal seemed touched by a magic wand. But at the time, Yamal was still very shy, but he always listened carefully to any advice he was given, and unlike many football academies, La Torreta put community at its heart, so it helped Yamal and his family when they struggled financially. But the club also had good players, so other youth club scouts watched La Torreta closely, ready to poach their top ballers. When Yamal was 7 years old, someone from a much bigger club was in the stands, and they offered Yamal a trial. That club was, of course, Barcelona. Even though it only took one trial to prove that he was good enough for the famed La Masia, Yamal's schedule of traveling back and forth across the city was tough, and he relied on lifts from his coaches or teammates, as his father didn't have a car. And on the weekends, Yamal and his dad had to wake up early to take a bus or subway across Barcelona to arrive in time for Yamal's matches. Even in later interviews, Yamal said he couldn't live without his T-Mobilitat public transportation card. Whenever he returned to Rocafonda, he would play against the older kids on the concrete pitch, developing a street football edge and crazy techniques that many kids who would just play at academies lack. But Rocafonda was a rough neighborhood, and its dangers would later harm Yamal's family. Eventually, in 2019, Lamine Yamal finally moved into La Masia's accommodation so that he could fully focus on football, and quickly became known as a future star as he led the Barcelona under-12s to international trophies, and Yamal then flew through the age groups. At 14, he was playing for the under-16s, where he scored 20 goals in 32 matches. At 15, he was in the juvenile A team for under-19s, and he progressed there so quickly that in April 2023, aged a barely believable 15 years, 9 months, and 16 days old, he made his debut for Barcelona wearing number 41 on his back. He came on for the final 7 minutes of a La Liga match against Real Betis, living every teenager's dream at becoming the youngest ever footballer to play a league game for Barcelona. But that was just the start, as he would soon set many more records, and even though he was on the pitch for only a few minutes, he forced the Real Betis goalkeeper into an impressive save and created a quality chance for Ousmane Dembélé, and his His debut came at the absolute perfect time, as he spent that summer on tour in the USA with Barcelona, where he impressed head coach Xavi. And that summer, PSG triggered Ousmane Dembele's release clause, and Xavi was not allowed to sign a replacement. This meant Xavi took a rare chance on Yamal, so even though he had only just turned 16, Yamal was promoted to Barcelona's senior team, and they knew right away that the kid was special. But nobody could have guessed how quickly he would become a superstar, as he made an impact straight away in the preseason Jean Gamper Trophy, helping create 3 goals in 10 minutes for a comeback win. And by then, Barca's players were already saying he was something different. He started the season on the bench against Getafe, but it only took until the second game of the season before he got his first start against Cadiz, and in the next game against Villarreal, he got his first assist for Barcelona, crossing the ball in for Xavi to score the opener in a 4-3 win, and his performance in that game earned him the Man of the Match award. Then, in September, Lamine Yamal became the youngest ever footballer to play for Spain, aged just 16 years and 57 days old, when he came off the bench for Dani Olmo in a Euro 2024 qualifying match against Georgia. He then scored in that match to become his country's youngest ever goal scorer. After the match, he said he was living in a dream, and a few days later, he became, at the time, the second youngest footballer to ever play in the Champions League. Barcelona knew how special he was, so they gave him a new contract with a €1 billion buyout clause, and major sponsors like Adidas had realized that Lamine Yamal was destined to be a superstar, and in their desperation to sign him, Adidas even asked Yamal's childhood hero Lionel Messi to give him a personal call to try and seal the deal. But back on the pitch in October, Yamal got his first goal for Barcelona against Granada and also played in his first El Clasico. But at this time, he was still so young that he needed to attend school and even skipped awards ceremonies due to class. But somehow in that debut season, he appeared in 50 games for Barcelona, scoring 7 goals and getting 9 assists. And many of those goals or assists came from his iconic trivela outside of the boot-kicking technique that he used for passes to assist Rafinha in goals against Villarreal and Mallorca. And the technique became so iconic that even local artists were painting Yamal performing the technique on walls across Barcelona. But since bursting onto the scene, it had been non-stop football for Lamine Yamal, and most of those 50 appearances were starts, but there were worries that too many games too soon could do more harm than good, as previous Barcelona wonder kids like Ansu Fati and Pedri had suffered injuries from playing too much at a young age. And to protect him, Spain chose not to call him up for the Olympics football tournament. At that point, Yamal had already played 7 times for his country's senior team, and if people still didn't know his name, then they would after that summer, as he was selected to play at Euro 2024 in Germany, where he became the youngest ever player to appear at a European Championship. And he was so young that he even brought his schoolwork with him to Germany to study for his exams. He didn't just appear at Euro 2024, he excelled. In the opener against Croatia, his perfect cross to Dani Carvajal gave him his first assist of the tournament. Then 2 more assists followed in the knockout games against Georgia and Germany, and then in the semi-final against France 4 days before his 17th birthday, Yamal showed what a big game player he was with a stunning curling shot into the top corner to equalize against France in the semi-final. That goal was later named goal of the tournament, so Spain reached the final against England, which fell on 1 day after Yamal's 17th birthday, so he told his mum she didn't need to buy him a present if Spain won the final. Yamal provided a present of his own, as his incredible pass to Nico Williams gave Spain the opener, as they went on to win 2-1 and become European champions. Lamine Yamal was named Young Player of the Tournament and was in the team of the tournament, and by now everyone in the world knew Lamine Yamal's name. Later that summer, the dangers of Rocafonda caught up with his family, as in August his father was stabbed 3 times in a parking lot, with witnesses saying that the attackers wanted to kill him. The wounds were considered life-threatening, but luckily Yamal's father survived the brutal attack, and that next season Yamal truly became a key part of Barcelona's success, starting the season brightly with 5 assists and 3 goals in his opening 6 La Liga matches, and then becoming the youngest player to ever score in El Clasico, as Barcelona wiped the floor with Real Madrid, winning 4-0 at the Bernabeu to start the season with 11 wins in the first 12 games. Madrid fans couldn't accept that they were beaten by the better side, and some fans launched racial abuse towards Yamal during the game, and the huge number of games that Yamal had played started to catch up with him, as he struggled with an ankle injury that saw him miss 5 games. But perhaps opponents were starting to get wise to Yamal at that point, because he went on a massive goal drought, failing to score any La Liga goals between November and the middle of March. This even led Italy's Francesco Totti to say that Yamal needed to score more goals, which forced Barcelona's head coach Hansi Flick to defend the young star by highlighting how many chances he creates, and that could be seen in the Copa del Rey, where Yamal got vital assists in the semis against Atletico and a pair of assists in the final against Real Madrid to give Barcelona their second trophy of the season. season, as they had already won the Supercopa back in January, and in the Champions League, Yamal was finding the back of the net, getting goals against Atalanta, Benfica, Borussia Dortmund, and Inter Milan as Barcelona progressed to the semi-finals before losing to Inter in extra time. But in the league, Yamal was saving his goals for the biggest games, getting his 6th of the season in a win over Atletico Madrid, and then getting his 6th against none other than Real Madrid with a curling shot to level the game that Barcelona went on to win and basically clinched the La Liga title, giving them a domestic treble. So Yamal finished that season with 18 goals and a total of 25 assists, including 9 goals and 15 assists in La Liga. That led Lamine Yamal to pick up some of the biggest individual honors in the game, including the Golden Boy Award, Francis Copa Trophy, the La Liga, and the Champions League Team of the Season awards. Most impressively, he came second in the 2025 Ballon d'Or, only behind Ousmane Dembélé, which was an incredible achievement for what was really his first full season as a starting player. As soon as Yamal turned 18, Barcelona gave him a long-term contract to tie him to the club until 2031 and pay him up to $43 million a year. He also got the Barcelona number 10 shirt, which showed his key role in the team. But his 18th birthday also brought controversy, as he was criticized in the media for allegedly hiring 4 dwarves to attend his party, dance with guests, deliver shots, and do magic tricks. While Yamal had been Barcelona's golden boy, now he had taken the number 10 shirt, once worn by Lionel Messi, and become a key player for the team. The same press that had built him up were ready to start trying to knock him back down. But he answered his critics on the pitch as he started the 25-26 season on fire with 2 goals and 3 assists in his opening 3 games, and showed his confidence with a new goal celebration where, like the basketball great LeBron James, he mimics putting a crown on his head, causing critics to claim he was arrogant. So Spain's head coach Luis de la Fuente had to defend him, saying it's a magician's hat cuz Yamal's just done a magic trick, and highlighting how hard Yamal works in training. But then Yamal suffered a setback as he picked up a groin injury that affected him through the autumn, and he didn't complete a full 90 minutes until the El Clasico loss to Real Madrid at the end of October. But from that point forward, Lamine Yamal was electric, and he certainly shut up those critics who said he didn't score enough, hitting the net 8 times and getting 4 assists in the next 13 games in La Liga, and then getting his first hat-trick for Barcelona against Villarreal at the start of March, and everything was looking up for Yamal heading into the Summer World Cup. But in a friendly match for Spain against Egypt, Spanish fans directed xenophobic anti-Muslim chants at Egypt, and as a Muslim who practices Ramadan, Yamal spoke out, condemning the chants as something intolerable. Then, in April, while taking a penalty against Celta Vigo, the worst thing possible happened. Even worse than a penalty miss. Yamal pulled his hamstring. His season was over, and his World Cup was in doubt. He finished the season early with 24 goals and 17 assists in all competitions as Barcelona won the league but struggled in the cups. Despite his injuries, Yamal was named in La Liga's Player of the Season, but now all the focus was on the World Cup and whether Lamine Yamal would be fit in time, as the recovery time for the injury was very tight. So he missed Spain's first 2 warm-up games and was left on the bench for Spain's opener against Cape Verde. But eventually, he came on with 20 minutes to go, and in Spain's second match, Luis de la Fuente was confident enough in Yamal's fitness that he played him from the start, and he scored after just 10 minutes against Saudi Arabia, becoming only the second ever player aged under 18 to score at the World Cup, and the only other player to achieve that feat is the legendary Brazilian star Pelé. But De La Fuente was really saving Yamal for the winner-takes-all knockout rounds, and that strategy paid off handsomely, as a now fully fit Yamal gave a man-of-the-match performance against Austria in the round of 32 and played every minute of the other knockout games and earned a vital penalty in Spain's tough semi-final match against France. So, in the final, Spain faced Argentina, and Lamine Yamal faced Lionel Messi, the star who bathed him as a baby, and who now he had grown to replace not just at Barcelona, but in world football as the next great superstar. When Spain eventually won the World Cup, Lamine Yamal became the youngest ever player to win both the Euros and the World Cup, and aged still just 19, many consider him to be the best teenage footballer ever, but he still only played 3 seasons of professional football, so despite all his achievements, Lamine Yamal is just getting started.